We're going to make some nettle tincture. If you wanted a fresh nettle to use for medicinal purposes, nettle's really only at its best during a couple of seasons, which is the early spring and its second flush of growth in autumn. So if you want to use it all the year round, you need to preserve it in some way. So herbalists will often use tinctures, which is like an alcoholic extract, where you chop up the herb, you cover it in alcohol, and this extracts the goodness from the plant into the liquid, which means it's preserved for a long time, and also means that it's easy to take. You can just take a teaspoon instead of having to make a big nettle tea.
You're only a real herbalist if you can pick nettles without gloves on. So obviously I'm not a real herbalist because they really, really hurt me.
You've got me. Bats of Queenswood. Should have a picture of me and you on there.
The old bats of Queenswood.
Got a nice little patch of green nettles here, and you take the nettle top. So even if these get a bit bigger, these are quite low at the moment, you take the top 2, 4, 6, 8 leaves and you just pinch them off. Herbalists use these in tinctures or in infusions for things like hay fever. Hay fever is one of the most popular recipes for this, where you'd mix it with elderflower and plantain leaf and drink it throughout the hay fever season. You can also use it as a food. It's a fantastic spring green. It's really high in protein, got lots of nutrients in it like calcium, magnesium, plenty of iron, so it's often used as well in anemia tonics. You can dry this or you can use it fresh into cooking. As soon as you've heated it, the stings go away so you won't sting your mouth. So the best way to use it is putting it into soups or wilting it like a spinach in other recipes. This is a very rare and unusual plant.
Are you looking at a dummy? She's talking rubbish.
Basically, you have to suck that straight off the tree.
Nettle greens are ridiculously high in minerals and vitamins. All of the minerals that you need for healthy skin, hair, nails and bone, like calcium, potassium, silica, zinc, literally a huge vast number of minerals, as well as vitamin C. One thing people are very, very surprised about when we tell them is that the leaf of nettle, just being a green leaf, is really, really high in protein. So it's a great protein source for vegetarians. It's going to help the body all over with its vitality and its health, but also it's used primarily for allergies.
Right, so the reason we're chopping up the nettle fine is that because we're using alcohol as an extractant, because we're using alcohol to extract the plant herbs, we need to break up the cell wall.
Sorry, the plant herbs.
Because we're using alcohol to extract the nutrients and the chemicals from the nettle, we need to break up the cell wall so it can go into the liquid as a solvent. So give it a bash, squash it a bit with your knife or a rolling pin or a pestle. We've got our chopped herb now, all mashed up, and what we're going to do is fill this jar with it. You don't want to squash it in too much because once you add the alcohol, you need the alcohol to get down and in between all the plants.
We are going to use 40% alcohol, which is basically vodka, Kim's favourite.
Once you've filled your jar loosely with your herb, you're going to add your alcohol all the way to the top. You put the lid on. Then the next most important thing to do is label and date it so you remember what it is and when you made it.
So you keep that in a dark place. A cupboard under the sink is fine. Not somewhere too hot for 2 to 4 weeks. And then afterwards you strain it off, dispose of the hard leafy bits and you keep the liquid. A standard dose for taking a tincture is about 5 mils 1 to 3 times a day in a little bit of water.